Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we're headed racing in race number 3 on the season here in Portimao in Portugal. Very excited for this one, coming off of two very strong runs to start the season in Bahrain on the podium, as well as on the podium last episode in Imola, a P3 in Bahrain, a second place in Imola after Sergio Perez was able to hold on in those closing laps after two wild races to start the season. So we've been, in my opinion, pretty lucky to be on the podium. We don't have a car that can have the raw pace for a podium. We're a car that should be about 8th, 9th, 7th, maybe right around there to 10th place as well, and we've been able to get on the podium both GPs so far. So it's of course taken a lot of luck and a lot of help with drivers having issues, so hopefully we can have that again here today here in Portugal, but you never know what's going to happen in these races. I've never done a race here in Portimao, so very excited. I made a lot of laps though around here in not only F1 2021 but as well as in Project Cars as well. So I've got some experience here with Portimao, and I was not feeling like I had no idea what I was doing when I showed up here. And same for Imola. Of course, I've made some laps there in the past, so I haven't felt out of place at these two new tracks in the game so far. If my maybe microphone levels sound a little bit different, by the way, I got a microphone arm, finally. It's been forever that I've been doing this and haven't had a microphone arm, and I got one now, so we can get this mic a lot closer to my face, and that's going to help for a lot of future videos, especially when I'm using the webcam and stuff. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I know sometimes you guys say sound a little bit quiet, so hopefully that will combat that a little bit here. But focus back on practice. Everything was going really smooth. The qualifying program, the race strategy, track acclimatization. Here was my qualifying program lap. The target was to qualify 7th, and in the objective anyways, and my result of that qualifying program was 7th, so we were right on par with what the team had set out for us. Now as we jump through into Q1, excited to get underway here now, and so far we are 1 for 2 in this season for making it into Q3. We had paced in Imola to easily make it into Q3. I just made a mistake at the end of my lap in Q2, and of course we only had one lap on the dry compound tires, so it didn't quite work out there. So we come through into Portimao Q1. I decided to actually make a lap on the medium compound and hope I could get through on it, because I wanted to try and save an extra set of soft tires going into Q2 and Q3. So I was really hopeful that I could set a good lap here on the mediums, and I set a solid lap, and it was just barely enough to get me into Q2, and I mean barely. We were 15th place, the last driver to advance, the only one on the medium compound tires. So we got pretty lucky right there, as there was less than a tenth between myself and being eliminated there in 16th place. So we come through into Q2 now, and here we were with about 11.5 minutes remaining in the session, getting our first lap in for the session, and now we were onto the soft tire, and we saved a whole extra set of soft tires to use if need be. Hopefully we don't have to use an extra set, but you never know with the mistakes that I can make on the track here. And now as we came through to set a decent time in my first attempt, but I obviously, you could see here I was in 8th place, so I wasn't confident that was going to be enough, as well. Saw quite a few drivers on the medium compound, including Valtteri Bottas, who would for sure beat my lap, but we go nearly 0.4 of a second faster on our second attempt. We went second fastest briefly, but we would drop all the way down into 10th place, so we just barely make it into Q3 by less than a tenth. So we just barely squeezed into both of these rounds so far, but nonetheless we make it into Q3 for the second time in our Aston Martin career. And as we came through here into Q3, I didn't make a lap until the very end of Q3, so I put my back against the wall with basically one opportunity to get a good lap in, and we were now covered by clouds. There's a lot of cloud cover going on here in these closing moments of Q3. Verstappen there just in front of myself. Then we had a McLaren behind myself. I'm not sure if it was Ricardo or Norris, but nonetheless, it was overall a solid lap. I definitely had a couple of hiccups there during the lap, so it wasn't perfect, but we come through down the front straightaway, cross the line, and we go P9 there just in front of our teammate of Sebastian Vettel. And I think this is really where our car should be placed, is 9th and 10th place based off the R&D. So I felt like myself and Sebastian qualified exactly where we expected to, as Lewis Hamilton is on pole. Let's head to the grid here in Portimao. Let's get ready for the Portuguese GP.
The Formula One circus has made its way to the southern coast of Portugal this week, and it's preparing for what I expect to be a terrific race here in Portimao. 2.9 miles of track at Portimao, featuring 15 turns, 9 to the right and 6 to the left. There's a lot going on here, a lot of elevation changes that will affect the driver's braking and acceleration. Keep an eye out for the DRS zone on the final straight. That will be the setup for a lot of today's overtaking chances. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. Can I get your take on Ferrari? There have been some tweaks to the power unit regulations, of course, and I have to say it doesn't seem, so far at least, that they've been able to keep up.
It doesn't look promising for them so far. And if the new regs have hit them as hard as we think, well, I suspect they may need a few late nights at the factory to get back on track.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, the rookie and Sebastian Vettel, Gasly, Tsunoda, George Russell and Giovinazzi, Ocon, Latifi, Lance Stroll and Mick Schumacher, Joe and Callum Islet. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
There you saw the grid. You saw the two Andretti Autosport drivers making up the very last row. Unfortunate for that brand new team that's trying to, of course, improve as quickly as they can here after taking over the Alfa Romeo assets after the completion of our second season in the My Driver series. So we get this grid lap or formation lap underway and get ready to go to the grid here now, as we would sure enough grid up and get ready to go lights out. Hamilton, Bottas, your front row. You got the McLarens and Red Bulls there kind of mixed up on row 2 and 3, and then you got Ferrari of Sainz and Leclerc just in front of myself and Sebastian Vettel here as we are ready to go 5 red lights here from Portugal. Our first race at this track in this game, our second of 3 new tracks on the schedule. It's lights out and we are underway. Lewis Hamilton with a very strong start right off the bat now. A terrible start to the season. He has had a lot of drivers up in this front 5 have had really rough starts. 3 wide in the background. Leclerc goes off track. He backs out of it. Our teammate is Sebastian Vettel as well had a poor start. I had a lightning start. I gained 2 positions on the start on this opening couple of corners. We're up into 7th place after starting in 9th. There's Ricciardo scrapping it out with Sergio Perez right there in the Red Bull. Now Red Bull currently not the best on the R&D situation. The defending champion Max Verstappen right now has not had a great start to the season as well, and you can see him right now behind his teammate Perez, who is currently still side by side with Ricciardo through a very tricky section of track right here. Easy to lose a lot of grip and easy to make some contact on that last corner they just went through, but they keep it clean, and Ricciardo looks like he is going to come out on top. Yes, he will. The Australian moves up the position in front of Perez there in that number 11 there. As you can see up in the top 3 though, it's Hamilton, Norris and Bottas there, your top 3 so far to start this opening lap. Overall, a very clean start. I thought turn 1 could have presented a lot of chaos, and it nearly did, but it didn't. We're going to get a quick look back at that first original start here to see what happened with Charles Leclerc and our teammate of Sebastian Vettel. So Vettel doesn't get off the grid very well. I get off the grid great. You can see I look to the right hand side of Carlos Sainz. Leclerc was about to go 4 wide. He pulls completely off, and then Sebastian backs out as well. Really weird situation, and unfortunately Leclerc gave up a bunch of track position, and so did Sebastian, who actually sent one up the inside of Charles there into the corner, but couldn't quite get the exit right there, and Leclerc moved back up into the front spot of Sebastian. But it was still Hamilton, Norris, as well as Bottas, your top 3 here in Portugal now as we come through to lap 3. DRS, of course, enabled at this point, and I was about 0.8 of a second ahead of Carlos Sainz, and then it was Pierre Gasly, and then you had an Alpine, and then you had Leclerc and Vettel there just outside of the top 10. Sebastian has been really quick here so far this season. Last episode in Imola, he was lights out faster than me at points in that GP. He just had some contact with Perez late in that race after some safety car chaos, and unfortunately that forced him into the pit lane in the closing moments for a brand new front wing. So now to lap 6, so far the calmest GP we have had in recent memory. We've had a crazy start to the season. We had a crazy end to last season, so it was a nice kind of change of scenery to kind of calm down and not have just chaos brewing everywhere and 10 cars crashing and whatnot. So everything so far was clean, and I was holding on to the DRS range with Verstappen and Perez, and Verstappen could not pass Perez even when he had DRS and Perez didn't, which was very interesting. It is a tough track to pass. You really only have 1 or 2 straightaways where you can try something there, as we have our first retirement though of the GP. Antonio Giovinazzi there for Williams appears to have an engine failure. He is going to pull over. He is going to be out here in Portimao. So there's our first DNF on the day now as we come through to the end of lap 9. Now Daniel Ricciardo had actually come into the pit lane. He would be putting on not the hard compound tire. Usually it's a 1 stop, but he puts on the medium compound, forcing him into a two-stop strategy as Vettel had just come through to set the fastest lap of the GP. He had worked his way through traffic and he was hauling the mail. He was closing in on me very, very quick, less than 2 seconds between us at the conclusion of lap 11. And now Verstappen's actually going to come into the pit lane. I was scheduled to come in on the same lap, so I make my way into the pit lane as well. Lewis Hamilton in the pits, as well as you got Norris too, and I nearly actually spun myself out trying to slow the car down in time to get into that pit lane, and of course not speed. So we come in to put on the hard compound tire. Unfortunately, you only need to do one stop here in Portimao. I hate these one-stop races, but I did not have a great pit stop. Things didn't quite go well. It was 3 seconds, but I lost some more time somewhere, and you can see that Verstappen is significantly further ahead of me than what it was when we came into the pit lane. So that was a bit of a concern. Oh my goodness, we nearly made contact with a fellow Canadian of Nicholas Latifi, and as we come through now to the end of lap 12, of course we're going to have DRS right here to overtake Latifi in that Williams, and Williams is becoming a midfield team very quick here in this My Driver Series as we swing to the right hand side, easily get ahead. But what caught me off guard is our teammate Sebastian Vettel just pitted and he came out in front of us. That's the pace Sebastian Vettel is setting. He is so fast right now. He was nearly 2 seconds behind me when I had come into the pit lane, and of course we had fresher tires. We should have been probably multiple seconds ahead of him, but no, he came out in front of us and he was driving away. He had opened up the gap well over a second, and I don't know where the pace went in this car. I wasn't driving any different. It just, the pace wasn't there. I had fallen off. I finally GOWEN fell off. There you have it. So it was not looking very good for our hopes here. I mean, we're still running in the top 10, but I was just a little bit baffled about where the pace had kind of just disappeared to at this point in the GP. Now to lap 16, 2.5 seconds behind our teammate Sebastian Vettel, and we weren't really losing a lot of time to the Red Bulls though, so maybe not as slow as I had originally actually thought.
Okay, there appears to be an issue. We're currently investigating.
Oh no, please no, we do not need a mechanical failure here in Portimao. Just the third race of the season. That would of course completely take an engine part out, and now it's just a waiting game. When you hear that message, you just hope that he's going to come back and just say, okay, it's just an electrical issue, but we're going to have it sorted out really quick. But the longer Jeff goes without talking after that message, the scarier it gets. And we're closing in on, what, a good 30 seconds at this point, and there it is. The engine has failed, and we are going to be out here in Portimao. You've got to be kidding me. We've had an incredible start to the season. 2 races, 2 podiums, and here we are not having the best day in the world, and it gets even worse. We have to retire in Portimao in a heartbreaking end, as I cannot believe that. What a frustrating way to end this GP, as we are out here in Portimao. So let's go see, I guess, the post-race celebrations and who won here in the Portuguese GP.
It's a performance that our Portuguese Grand Prix winners can be justifiably proud of. I'm sure there'll be celebrations tonight. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
Lewis Hamilton back on the top step of the podium after a miserable start to the season. Norris as well, a terrible start to the season. He is there on the podium as well. And you see Verstappen, Perez, Ricciardo, Vettel there. So Vettel with a strong day in 7th, Gasly with a strong run, Russell and Carlos Sainz round out your top 10, and Leclerc outside of the top 10. We are at least still 3rd in the standings, 14 points below, so it's not the end of the world, but I immediately thought about the next GP when I'm sitting here looking at the standings, and I thought about it, and I'm like, oh no, Spain is back on the schedule. We don't have the Chinese GP this season. We have the Spanish GP, and that was hands down my worst track in season 1 of the My Driver series. So I'm a little bit concerned about how that one is going to go. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe I'll find some pace. Well, not maybe. We have to find some pace there. So we'll see what happens. And we can only make right now 1 durability upgrade is all I could do. Everything else has been completely upgraded. We have to upgrade the car or whatever to spec 3 before we can actually make any more upgrades. So I'm not sure how that works, but we will of course find out. But in the next one, we head to Spain, fresh off of a Lewis Hamilton victory. Can he finally find something to make his push for the 8th world title in this My Driver series? We're going to find out. Mercedes is the best team right now. As always, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode and other videos on the channel. Of course, thank you to the members. You'll be at the end of the episode there. Now, as I will see you guys in the next one when we head to Spain and Catalonia here for the Spanish GP. We'll see if we can get a strong run and a nice rebound from that DNF here today in Portugal. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, everybody.